Hi homeschool friends, welcome. I am so excited that you are joining me today. We're going to talk about 5 tips that can make any homeschool curriculum work for you. And so no matter what your philosophy of homeschooling is, if you are following Charlotte Mason, if you're a classical homeschooler, if you are unschooling, if you're eclectic, I think these tips are going to help you have a successful year regardless of your curriculum, regardless of whatever lovely philosophy you are following. I have been homeschooling for 20 years, so I'm getting ready to start my 21st year homeschooling, and I think these are some of the core foundational things that have helped me through these years, and so I'm excited to share them with you today. I am Jen Merckling, and like I said, I've homeschooled, oh my goodness, my 6 kids for 20 years. I have homeschooled all of them. My oldest 2 children ended up going to public high school in 9th grade, so I didn't homeschool them all the way through high school, but I did homeschool my 3rd daughter all the way through high school, and I have 2 still at home. Oh, excuse me. This is when you have 6 kids, you're forgetting how many kiddos you have at home. I have twins at home, and I have a son who will be going into 6th grade. So I have 3 little ones that I'm still homeschooling, and we have a lot of fun. I feel like I have learned a lot over the years. I have become more relaxed. I was always pretty relaxed as a homeschooler. Just sort of the nature of having 6 kids and a lot of things going on. You can't always keep things as neat and tidy and organized as maybe as you would like. But it has worked out. So my oldest 2 children have graduated. My oldest son has an associate's degree, and my oldest daughter just graduated as I am recording this from the University of Kansas with a engineering degree. So she's going to be a civil engineer, and it's very exciting. She starts work in the real world here in a couple of weeks, and we're super excited for her. So we did math tiers at our table, and we got through it, and she is awesome. An engineer now, so you can do it. If we did it, you can do it. I have my daughter, who is the one that went all the way through homeschooling high school, is going into her junior year as a film major and really thriving in college. She her films actually just won the best at the university. She won the best film, and she won the best experimental film, and so go creative homeschool kids. It's pretty exciting to see all the cool things that they do when they get through. And in the middle of that, so my big kids, as they were going into those middle years, I was having my other, we call it wave 2 of kiddos. So there's an 8-year gap. And so when the one that's now off studying film was 8, we had my son. And then we had, a couple years later, we had our twins, who were miracle babies. They were born at 26 weeks. So that whole year that they were born, we were doing lots of doctor appointments, really just, very consumed with taking care of very fragile, tiny little newborns. And so in the middle of all that, they came out, they did fine, and they're thriving as young adults. And so that's exciting. So if we can do it, you can do it. And I'm still doing it with you. Like I said, I'm forgetting how many kids I have still at home, but I'm with you. So I have, like I said, 3 at home still, 1 going into 6th grade, and my twins going into 3rd grade. So let's dive into what are some ways. I'm just going to stick with 5 ways today, 5 basic things to help us get through anything, any of our curriculums. What are some 5 basic things that have helped me? And the first thing I would say is modeling. And I noticed that it's not always built into our homeschool curriculum, this modeling piece. And so I think sometimes moms feel like they're helping their kiddos too much, or we feel like we're doing too much of the work, or we're hoping that they are going to be working independently a little bit sooner than they probably are developmentally ready for. I mean, I see so many fabulous curriculum that are already catering to, the kiddo can do it themselves in 3rd grade. And I'm thinking, whoa, I don't know. I didn't have really 3rd graders that were capable of sitting down and really teaching themselves any sorts of lessons. Of all my 6 kids, I don't think I had any that were that way. Now I think there are some, very gifted, self-directed kiddos out there, but I think in general, most kiddos still need a lot of hand-holding through those elementary grades, the K through 6. So please do not feel bad about sitting with your kiddo and doing lots of modeling, lots of examples, and just enjoying that journey with them. I feel like when we push them a little too quickly, when we rush into the independent work, we as moms are missing out on some of that juicy conversation that we could be having. And I know you probably are thinking, Jen, how can we have juicy conversations about math? But you know what? It's amazing when you're sitting there together talking about your experiences, their experiences, working through things together. Sometimes it's amazing the things that come up. And so I just encourage you, don't rush to that independent work stage too quickly. Just enjoy the journey with your kiddo as long as you can, as long as they are excited to have you as their little support system right next to you. I say go for it. Don't worry that they are not doing independent work, honestly, in any of the levels K through 6. I just don't feel like it's something that you need to developmentally worry about at all. If you have a kiddo that goes off by themselves and does their work, that's awesome. But don't feel bad if your kiddo needs still a lot of hand-holding all the way through those grades. And sometimes 7th and 8th graders need still that support too, especially in certain subjects. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, my daughter, who's a film major, she never really thrived in math. It's not her favorite subject. And so when we were even senior year of high school, I was sitting there with her because I still felt like I was still her teacher, responsible for her education at that point. But she was doing dual enrollment at the high school, taking an online class. I was sitting there watching the algebra. I feel like I don't know how many times I've taken algebra now, but I have. And so we sat there and I did college algebra with her. We watched the professor. If she had questions, we talked about them. And so there's just a lot of time where kids have misconceptions about something, or you need to clear it up. And just that modeling and being that support system, it's so good for your kiddo. You won't regret it. And I promise you that they will get to that independent stage sooner than later. So even with my 5th grader, he watches videos for math. So if, let's say, math, that feels like a subject that sometimes moms don't feel comfortable teaching. He also does a video program. But I tell you what, I sit there and watch the video with him, and we do it together and we talk about it together. And as much as I love math, it is fun to have another person explain it in their own way, because sometimes I feel like we maybe get used to thinking about math the way that we were taught. And so it's always interesting to hear someone else's perspective. But I don't just set him in front of the lesson by himself. I really think it's still important, even at this 5th grade level, even as an 11-year-old, that I'm sitting there making sure, as he's hearing, about fractions, about decimals, about all these things for the first time, that he's not getting something lost in translation. And so don't feel bad about sitting with your kiddo. I just think between the bonding that happens in the relationship and the ability to support, sometimes you're the emotional support pet, just sitting there with their kiddos while they're struggling maybe through, like my daughter, with a lesson or a subject that they don't love, or just also being there to be sort of like the overarching teacher. I'm making sure that you really understand what this is all about. So that's my 2 cents about that. Just don't push them into independent work too quickly. Also, I was a classroom teacher for a couple years. I taught 2nd grade. And I tell you what, in the classroom, we are doing problems, so many problems on the board. So don't feel bad about doing problems for your kiddo, because that's not always built into a homeschool curriculum where it's like, okay, mom, you can do the next 10 problems. So show them how to do it. So please feel like it's very appropriate to actually, okay, watch me do a couple, and now you do, and I'm gonna watch you do. And so there's that sort of collaboration that happens after you've done some modeling, and you're really making sure that they understand what they're doing. So my number one tip, no matter what curriculum you're using, modeling and spending that time together. You can't help them too much. You can't model too much. You can't help them too much. It's all good. And also in that same breath, I would say, is that we are teaching our children the habit of focus. And so many kiddos do not have that habit. If you have a kiddo who can focus and sit and do something by themselves for a long time, that's amazing. But most of our kiddos, especially if you have a little boy like mine, he has, I have to keep saying, Asher, focus, buddy, time to focus. So you're teaching that habit of focus, and it gets stronger the more they practice and the longer they do it. But it doesn't happen overnight. So if this is your first year of homeschooling, or maybe your 20th year of homeschooling and you still have kiddos who are younger, like I said, elementary school grades, and they're just sitting there like having to be told to stay on task, that is super normal. And that's just part of it. And so don't set your expectation to something that is just unattainable, because then I think we set ourselves up for failure. So just know that they're going to need that support, and that is part of what we're teaching them, that life skill of being able to focus and pay attention. Okay, moving right along. Okay, number 2. So the pause and repeat is my second tip. If you are a list girl like me, you want to check things off, you want to get things done, it's so good to check something off of a list. And so when your kiddo gets to a lesson, it's so fun. Oh, we just did lesson 53. But whoa, they are like actually not really ready to go on to lesson 54 or whatever lesson you're on, because that was a struggle, that was a challenge. I'm especially thinking about reading. So my little girls are working on reading skills right now. And so we can maybe like fight through, learn the new skill, but are we like really ready to go on and learn the next skill? Probably not. So we definitely build in time to just kind of sit in the lesson we just did. We will reread the story. Maybe the next day, all we do is reread the new phonics story that we did. We just spend time focusing and soaking in the new learning. And I don't, as tempting as it is to go check off the next box, don't feel bad about sitting in the moment and just taking some time with what you've just learned. And that could be reviewing, repeating, just staying in wherever you need to be. Don't rush through to the next step. So for sure, that's about rereading stories. I definitely don't think that's built in very nicely into most homeschool curriculum. So you have to build that in yourself. So if your kiddo has read a story, don't feel bad. Like I said, if it takes all week to keep practicing and working on that story. You can build in extra practice through games, through, I actually sometimes buy extra curriculum. So I maybe don't follow one curriculum perfectly fully, but I use like a piece of that curriculum, especially if it's something a little bit less expensive, or maybe it's a grade level down than the main one we're doing. So I use a reading curriculum, and then I use like a step down of a different little tool, and that kind of helps my girls build some confidence and keep working on something that isn't quite as challenging, so it can build some confidence. So there's some things you could do that are less expensive. Explode the Code, I'm thinking of, as a really nice workbook supplement where you can maybe work down a level than what you are maybe working on in your main core reading book, just so that your kiddos have a chance to say, okay, I can do this, and not just always feel like you're getting bombarded with new difficult information, especially if reading is a challenge for your kiddo, because we want them to feel good about school, about reading, and it will come. For some kiddos, it is a way slower journey than others, and that's the beauty of homeschooling, is that we get to go at their pace on the journey, and normalizing that reading can happen anytime between that 1st grade and 6th grade place. That's just the way that kiddos are. There are kiddos who can read. I've had one who could read when she was 4, and I have, my girls who are still working on it, and they're about to turn 9. So there is a spectrum out there, all in the same family, all the same, environment, reading tools, all of it. But kiddos are all wired differently, and we're just on the journey with them, and they will all get there, I promise. So build in that extra day. My point about this, especially, I want you to remember that the school day counts, even if you didn't get to check off a brand new lesson. So the learning is real and it counts, even if you're repeating a lesson, if you don't get through the lesson, you still did school, it still counts. Okay. Number 3, we are going to ignore the grade level. And I know that's really, really hard, especially if you are newly coming out of the public school or a traditional school mindset. We just have to let it go. There's so many moms who are concerned, you know, on a forum, I'm thinking about Facebook groups for different curriculum that I belong to, and everybody's worried about grade level. Is my child on grade level, and what would be the right grade level to pick? And I just, I want you to pick the curriculum level for where your kids really are and not where you wish they were. And that's even still hard for me. Even 20 years into this thing, even, you know, with my experience in the classroom, it's like, oh, I think they should be able to do this. So I'm gonna I literally bought a curriculum last year. We couldn't even open it because it was just a whole grade level above where my girls were. So I had these intentions and hopes of where we were, but the reality was, no, that would have been like a complete nightmare if I had tried to fight our way through that curriculum. So we just have to not do wishful thinking, and we have to accept and respect where our kids are at that moment, at this moment in time. In that same breath, I would just say that your child will catch up. We cannot start extrapolating out where our kids will be 10, 12 years from now based on where they are in kindergarten, first, second grade. They will catch up. You don't have to do every level and every curriculum you ever come across. It will all come out in the wash, I promise. There is great leveling years coming ahead in the middle school, early high school, and it's amazing when things start clicking and how much you can cover. It all works out, I promise. So don't get so far ahead of yourself. The younger gen would have been worrying about, well, we're going to study American history this year and then 4 years later, and I would have been trying to like do all of these mental gymnastics trying to figure out what we would be doing by the time we're in junior in high school, and we're only in 3rd grade. So there's just no sense in doing that. I promise you, you will probably have changed curriculum. I don't even know how many times by then. Your children will have new interests and new abilities, and so it will all be completely irrelevant. Just try to stay on the year you're on and focus on what your child needs for this year. Not what you wish they needed for this year, but where they really, really and truly are. And don't worry about the grade level piece of it. It's honestly irrelevant. It's irrelevant for us as homeschoolers. We just meet our kids where they are. If this makes you feel any better, thinking about general goals, for reading in grades 1 through 6, our goal is for them to be reading by the end of grade 6 fairly independently. We want them to be able to read independently at that point. And for the most of our children, that is going to be happening. Writing a couple paragraphs independently by the end of 6th grade. So this is the goal. This is where we're working toward. And then foundational math. And you have like 7th and 8th grade to kind of fill in any of the blanks, any of the places that need a little more firming up. And then you have high school, you just need to be ready for algebra. So as long as you have those like foundational math skills in place, you're gonna be fine. Your kids are gonna be fine. We all make it there, and I promise you there's no behind. So maybe that's the big takeaway of ignoring the grade level, is also accepting we're not behind. We are on our own journey, and it's gonna be beautiful and work out so good. And what a blessing to take this journey with your kiddo. And what a blessing you are to not rush them and compare them to anybody else, that they are getting to learn at their own pace and be celebrated for where they are at. They don't have to feel bad because they have the safety of home and the encouragement of home. And you are such a gift to your kiddo to be able to do that. Okay. Number 4. All right, so consistency. And that, we're with our kiddos all the time. We are doing this 365 days a year. How do we stay consistent and not get burned out? And the trick to that, sweet friends, is short lessons. And our kiddos, so I was doing a little research about this, they say, according to child developmental psychologists, doctors, all of it, that our attention span, at least for children, is about 2 to 3 times their age. So your 6-year-old, they can probably only handle a 12 to 18 minute long lesson, okay? That's like tops, that's max. And so, my 10-year-old, that's, so 20 to 30 minutes, that's the most that they're really able to give you. And so trying to push through something more than that, you are wasting your breath, wasting their time. And it also means we can't just go from we're gonna do 20 minutes of math and we're gonna do 20 minutes of reading and we're gonna go boom, boom, boom. We've gotta give ourselves brain breaks, body breaks, whatever we have to do. We have to kind of get that snack, shake it out. My kiddos, the way we work it at our house is I kind of think about my time with each of them almost like a private tutor. So I'll work with my son who's 11 for, about 30, 45 minutes. And then and that's long for him. I mean, I'm saying probably, so he's 30 minutes is pretty good. And so we spend some time together, then he runs off, and then I get one of the twins, and then those two are out, that my son and the other twin are off playing. So I don't honestly worry too much about what the ones are doing that I'm not working with independently. So I work with my kiddo, almost think of it as tutoring whoever I'm working with, whether it be, we're gonna work on reading, we're gonna work on math. And then the other kiddos are just off making, creating, doing something. I kind of always have a table of art, a table of kinetic sand, Legos. I mean, it's not necessarily the most tidy place, but there's always something going on, educational, fun. I'm not opposed to some video games. Kids are playing and kind of doing their own thing while I'm working with someone one-on-one. And that's kind of the way we do it. We just keep rotating. So somebody spends some intense time with mom, and then it's somebody else's turn. So keep those lessons short. My last bit of advice in the whole consistent keeping the lessons short is sometimes when we get behind, or kiddos have been sick, or we've gone on vacation, or who knows what, we feel like we're behind. We're really not behind. But you're like, oh, I really wish I was on lesson 52 or something like that of your math. And so you might say, I think we could get 4 done today. Don't do that. Don't try to cram a whole bunch of concepts. Even if you have little sweet angel babies that are really ready to sit there and listen to all of it and are really trying to work through all of it, there's only so much that any of us can retain new information at any one time. So just don't play catch up. Don't dump extra lessons in trying to play catch up, because I feel like that kind of backfires. We get burned out, our kiddos get burned out, they don't remember what we did, and we end up just having to kind of re-go through things, and we're frustrated because we think we already taught it. So if you can avoid doing more than one lesson, if you're trying to do 3, 5 lessons in a day because you feel like you're behind, just take that idea out of your mind that you're not behind, and there's no sense in trying to dump all these extra lessons into a single day. Okay, last little tip is I would say don't be afraid to cut out lessons and cut down lessons and assignments. So let's say you didn't finish something in maybe the 30 minutes that you feel like this is our little work time together. You decide, do we need to keep working on it? Did my kiddo not get the main gist of this lesson and we need to keep working on it tomorrow? Or are we done? Is it just done? So we didn't get it all done. We're gonna count it good. We're marking this lesson off of the list. We are done with it. So just because you didn't finish all the problem, your child didn't finish all the problems on the page or in the book that day, does not mean that the lesson really isn't complete. Remember, it's the overall objective. Did my child understand how to add the fractions today? Did we kind of cover that enough that we can move on to the next thing, or do we need to come back to this tomorrow? And that's the beauty, and that's sort of the fun and the art of being a homeschool mom. You get to start to really study and be curious about your child, and each day, like, do we need to come back to this? Ready to move on. And you get to make the decision, not your curriculum, but you do. Also, don't be afraid if it's a really long, daunting page. Just tell your kiddo, you know what? We're just going to do our best. Whatever we can get done in 10 minutes. We're going to set the timer and we're going to call it good. And sometimes just knowing like, oh, I don't have to do this huge, giant page. My mom is only asking for my best work for 5-10 minutes, whatever is good for your kiddo. That can just take some stress and some pressure off of your kiddo. Maybe telling them, you know, today we're just going to do the evens. We're just going to do the odds. Maybe you're writing, maybe you're the scribe. And again, don't feel bad doing some of the writing for your kiddo. Sometimes I'll write some and I'll say, okay, why don't you write for a little bit? And that's kind of how we do it. So I hope those tips give you some overarching like boundaries of how you can make any curriculum, any philosophy work really good for your family. So modeling, don't be afraid to show your kiddo, work with your kiddo, sit down, share the work. Always make sure that you have shown them what it looks like. Don't rush into that independent work. Number 2 was pause and repeat, because sometimes our kids need us to really like take it down a notch. We can't just keep zooming through as much as our little checklist would like for us to. We have to ignore the grade level. We have to kind of put the public school or traditional school aside and really focus on our kids and their unique strengths and weaknesses. And what a blessing it is that we can do that. My 4th tip was to be consistent through short lessons. And you might have to be the one to shorten them. You might have to ignore your curriculum a little bit. If it's giving you these lengthy assignments and things, you're just gonna have to say, oh, we are stopping here today. And my 5th tip was cutting lessons and assignments and you deciding if it's time to move on and call it good, or do we need to keep practicing. So I hope those tips help you, give you some confidence as you are going into this new school year. I am so excited for you. Homeschooling has been one of the biggest blessings in my life. It is, I can't imagine another lifestyle. I am so thankful for it every single day. What a privilege, and love sharing this time with you. I hope some of these tips help. You can find me on my blog, which is jenmerckling.com. I love connecting with my readers, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave me a comment or reach out. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to work with you and help you. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.